This is Ecotricity's EcoTEC Roundup show from Aotearoa's first and only climate-positive certified renewable electricity provider. We only source from wind, hydro and solar, and we are the leading supplier of electricity to electric vehicles in Aotearoa. Switch today at ecotricity.co.nz. Welcome back to another roundup of news in the world of clean cars and green energy. Thanks for joining me. We've long been lamenting the trend in the EV world towards larger and more expensive models, but this week Volvo bucked that trend, revealing its EX30 electric SUV. While North American customers will get just one battery pack choice, other parts of the world will get to choose between an LFP battery pack with more modest range but lower sticker price, or a higher capacity, more performance-oriented NMC battery with longer range. The starting price, just about $35,000 or equivalent before any incentives, means it's going to be a surprise addition to the budget-oriented EV lineup, while the headline range up to 275 miles or 442 kilometers isn't anything to sniff at, nor is the top specs 3.5-second sprint time. We hope to get some time behind the wheel very soon. The SEIA, that's the Solar Industry Association, has published an updated insight into the US solar market, and thanks in part to renewed incentives for solar, it says the solar market could triple in size over the next 5 years. Documenting a 47% increase in installed solar during the first quarter year on year, the organisation says it's traditionally a slow time for solar installation, but this was the best first quarter in the industry's history. Admittedly, Q1's installed solar was down a little on the fourth quarter, but that's because people tend to install solar at the end of the year in order to minimise the amount of time they have to wait for the associated tax breaks. It wasn't just residential solar going in either. Utility-scale solar installations were up an astonishing 66% in Q1 year on year, which led in part to the positive outlook for 2028. Ford has confirmed that it's dramatically expanding production of the Ford F150 LIghtning this coming fall at its Rouge production facility in Detroit. For anyone wanting to get their hands on the F150 LIGhtning, this is great news, but Ford was eager to point out that its planned production ramp will heavily lean into increased production volumes of the F150 LIGhtning XLT, the second of 4 trim levels in terms of cost. While the new range-extended XLT is now nearly the same price as the Lariat extended range was this time last year, Ford says that customers who have been frustrated by limited XLT availability thus far should now be able to order one at their local dealership, no reservation required, and orders placed now could be fulfilled as early as September. We did ask Ford the exact details of the production ramp-up and how many of each variant it planned, but Ford declined to provide them at the current time. We should all know by now that driving plug-in vehicles results in far fewer tailpipe emissions when compared to internal combustion engine cars. But this week, the American Lung Association quantified the benefits of going electric with some good old-fashioned cold hard maths. In a new report entitled Driving to Clean Air, Health Benefits of Zero-Emission Cars and Electricity, the ALA demonstrated how a widespread transition to zero-emission passenger vehicles and zero-emission electricity generation would result in up to 89,300 fewer deaths caused by poor air quality by 2050, saving nearly $1 trillion in public health costs and lost workdays. Reminding us that 120 million Americans live in areas with unhealthy levels of air pollution, the message is clear. We need to act now to make our future better. It's nearly 4 years since Tesla unveiled the Cybertruck, and we're still waiting for series production to begin, but this week rumours surfaced suggesting that is edging very close to reality. Several outlets have run stories this week reporting Tesla has been ramping up its supply chain with suppliers for, quote, Project Everest, its internal codename for Cybertruck, promising that it will have release candidates for the full-size electric pickup by late August, with production due to start shortly thereafter. This would mean that Tesla is on track for the first deliveries by the end of September, as it promised, allowing Tesla to claim at least some third-quarter deliveries of the same. When everything is operating at full capacity, sources within the supply chain say Tesla is aiming to produce 375,000 Cybertrucks per year. General Motors' Mary Barra may have just inked a deal with Tesla to see GM switch to Tesla's next charging connector in North America, but just last week she sounded less rosy on EVs. As reported by Reuters, Barra took part in the Sanford Bernstein conference, at which she portrayed a rosy future for autonomous vehicles, but stated it wasn't yet profitable to make and sell electric vehicles for less than $40,000. Given that GM has been selling its Bolt EV and Bolt EUV for some time at starting prices well below that figure, and we know GM has lost money on the same, it feels as if the CEO is readying us for a potential bump in price for the upcoming Equinox EV, which is currently undergoing final production validation. Barra said that she expects the price of entry-level EVs to reach parity with internal combustion engines towards the end of this decade. Stellantis appointed a new head of Fiat in the US this week in the form of Ahmed Ahmed, a former Fiat Chrysler marketing executive who left the firm in 2017. His task is to expand Fiat's presence again in North America, where it currently only sells the Fiat 500X, but it's looking to reintroduce the Fiat 500e for the North American market. Having sold the original Fiat 500e in limited numbers, FCA, prior to its merger with PSA to become Stellantis, declined to bring the second-generation 500e to the continent when it launched in 2019. With last year's European sales of the 500e proving strong for the brand, Stellantis has already confirmed the Fiat 500e in North America friendly specs will return next year, and we at the channel cannot wait, least of all Michael, who misses his deceased Fiat 500 Turbo, aka Stella, terribly. Rideshare services Uber and Lyft going electric might claim massive environmental benefits on towns and cities around the world, but on paper, a new study disagrees. Enter a new University of Michigan paper that argues even if Uber, Lyft and other rideshare services go zero tailpipe emissions by 2030 as promised, there's a whole slew of other social costs that must be factored in to examine the true cost of it all. I'd love to deep dive into this and let us know if you'd like us to do that soon, but the Cliff Notes version is that electric rideshare vehicles are better than internal combustion engine rideshare vehicles, but without some major changes in infrastructure, extra miles travelling to fast charging could increase congestion and eliminate some of the air pollution reduction from going electric. Our personal take? We need more affordable electrified mass transit and better multimodal transportation solutions. In addition to coming to terms with the change of drivetrain, legacy automakers and their dealerships are finding that going electric can require some significant investment. And while we've mentioned the costs associated with dealerships getting on board with electric vehicles before, I don't think we've ever had a nationwide representation of the same. This week, however, the US National Automobile Dealers Association, which at one point was firmly against any form of EVs, confirmed that as automakers switch to primarily electric or completely electric lineups, the nearly 17,000 franchise dealerships across the US will collectively invest more than $5.5 billion in the necessary equipment, infrastructure and training needed to become approved to sell and service new electric vehicles. While direct-to-customer sales might solve some of this, it wouldn't solve the service bit. In case you haven't heard, Tesla has already quietly ended production of its right-hand drive Model S and Model X cars, meaning it's no longer going to be on sale in Aotearoa or Australia. While some right-hand drive markets, like the UK for example, make it easy for people to drive left-hand drive vehicles on their roads, getting approval to import and drive a left-hand drive car for the Kiwi market isn't technically impossible, but it's very difficult, and it comes with a whole slew of caveats that could make ownership extremely difficult. So if you're yearning for a Model X instead of a Model Y, or you're wanting a larger Model S without the Model 3, you're going to need to look in the used car market for one. That said, with more choice in the Kiwi market than ever before, we really are now having some great alternatives on sale that you should consider instead, which is the perfect segue into our very own buyer's guide at ecotricity.co.nz. It is packed with all the information you need to pick a car that's right for you and includes plenty of details about incentives you can get, charging providers you can use, and of course how to get charging set up at home. So follow the link below and start your journey today. Going long distance in an EV can be something of an adventure thanks to the spotty nature of EV charging station availability and reliability in some parts of the world. True, the shift towards one standard could make that a whole lot better, but what if you live somewhere where there's simply no charging stations because you're travelling through a very sparsely populated area? That was apparently the question that Ford engineers asked themselves some time ago, and they appear to have come up with an unusual answer: a large roof-mounted supplemental battery pack that you can add to your electric truck or SUV before going off the beaten track and taking on some EV wilderness travels. Granted, it's only a patent right now, a patent that appears to be granted, but if Ford were actually to bring this to production and rent it out to customers, that might be very interesting. Although let's not talk about what that weight would do to its centre of gravity. And finally, as we've grown tired of saying, and you're probably tired of hearing, we all need our transition to daily transportation solutions to be cleaner, greener alternatives to fossil fuels. And in order to do that, those solutions being developed need to be affordable, equitable and accessible, which is why we are really excited to see a new prototype vehicle this week from Citroen in the form of the Ami for All, a version of the Citroen Ami microcar quadricycle that's been designed to accommodate those with a wide range of accessibility needs. Aside from doors that hinge super wide to allow easy access to the inside of the vehicle, the prototype features a choice of hand control options, a space for a wheelchair, either next to the driver or mounted on a rack at the rear of the vehicle, and a transfer seat designed to make it easier for wheelchair users to get in and out of the vehicle. It's a great idea that we really hope will make it into production. And on that note, we are done for the day. Before I go though, do make sure you've hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on the latest in news from this channel. And of course, if you haven't switched yet, it is time to switch to Aotearoa's first and only climate positive certified renewable electricity provider. It's super easy to make the switch, and you'll be helping the nation wean itself off dirty energy and onto clean green power that will keep the land beautiful for generations to come. I'm going to be here next week as usual for a normal roundup show, as will the lovely Gavin Kiwi EV Shoebridge. He has been checking out a very large vehicle in the form of the Peugeot e-Partner. In fact, it's so large that he's having to change his scale for potato storage capacity. It's definitely worth watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm Nikki Gordon Bloomfield. Ka kite! See you next time.